And I think some of the examples you have given are people that they can surprise you.
Unpredictable.
They can be
new finance minister.
They can be very unpredictable, right?
Julius is becoming more predictable.
He's becoming
whereas
more
Zuma is still not.
I don't know. We'll get to
with MK, Baba. He showed us. I've still got it.
We'll come to that.
Sorry.
We'll come to the MK. So it is possible that the so-called a radical person can be moderated, to be a more like presidential material. So you are right. I mean, Mandela is a good example. I mean, so by the time he was contesting to be president, he was a very different person to who he was before that.
But wasn't that radical though, guys?
He was.
No.
I mean,
if you look at everything that the ANC claimed to be radical, Sobukwe was doing it before. Every single thing that the ANC did was a copy of what Sobukwe did.
Sobukwe
did.
But Sobukwe was from the ANC.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Remember, they were the Africanists in the ANC.
Okay.
They left.
Okay.
Yes.
Once they left, they started Tipoko before MK. Then they started the MK.
What's your argument for Mandela specifically? Because Mandela brought into...
I don't think Mandela was that radical to the extent that you guys think he was.
So he joined a party at the time that was speaking nationalization, that was talking overthrowing government, that even went to the extent of setting up a guerrilla military wing.
Yes.
That becomes radical.
At that time, there were other people who were doing more radical things.
But
Well, the more or less radical doesn't take away that he was radical. Because these were not things that if you speak about it today or during the transition, would be given a thumbs up. You guys are leading Umkhonto Wesizwe. You're willing to bomb things. You're claiming things like you're willing to die. You want to nationalize, which is completely revolutionizing how the economy is run. And that is radical. Later on, which is why it'd be called a sellout, is when it become more moderate. But this is not, Julius, what you were telling us about. Now all of a sudden you're like, but private property and constitution, guys, the markets. Then we're like, but you used to be radical. If there were more radical people, Andile Mngitama as an example, whatever, or they must leave, then you can be like, sure, this guy maybe was more radical, but Mandela was radical at a point.
And I think so. That's exactly the point I wanted. I agree with you, but maybe the point you're making, he was not the only radical, or he was not the first. But I don't think it changes the fact that he was relatively radical versus a moderate position.
Mangosuthu Buthelezi, sorry, back in the day was the moderate guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
For business and the apartheid government.
They loved him.
Too much.
In fact, when a number of delegations went to Europe and US, they say often, I think you interviewed Holomisa, and you were saying often the first question was, where's Kachi? Where's Buthelezi?
Yes, and they get very upset and annoyed with
why are we talking about this guy? Yes.
He was the favorite guy, yeah.
Absolutely. The reason I think we might be going through a potential transition is that the business elite is starting to feel the pressure of the consequences of the ANC decisions. So, infrastructure falling apart. Yes, there seems to be some handle on energy supply and all of that, but still not quite clear it's a long-term sustainable solution. So they are starting to feel the pain of that. Sanctions may or may not come. Maybe they will target individuals and all of that. So I think the business elite is preparing for a transition. Now, here is why I was talking about the ship of Theseus, is that when people say one day the DA will be government, people think like we will wake up like some random day and then there will be in government
2029
tomorrow.
And the DA will win the elections.
That's not how it's going to happen.
That's not how it's going to happen.
That's not how it's going to happen. And this is why the ship of Theseus thing also is of relevance here. Today we have DA ministers in government.
Correct.
People think you wake up and suddenly, right? So initially, it is the ministers that seem to be running non-important portfolios.
Yes.
All right?
Agriculture, education, public infrastructure, and the like.
The next thing is going to be, oh no, but we actually should be able to be running, especially when the ANC will talk about the next national elections. If ANC starts to drop further, then the argument is going to be we need some of the critical ministries. So then that might be trade or finance or something like that.
Mineral resources.
So when people say like, it's not going to happen, the DA is going to, DA today is already partially running government.
It's already happening.
All that needs to happen is they need to run more and more and more. And that's going to happen when the ANC, if the ANC drops further and start to get closer to the DA's fairly stable, we'll talk about why it's stable, fairly stable 20-something%.
On that point, I mean, it would be an ANC finance minister that tables VAT, and it would be the DA with the EFF, but the DA countering a minister. They'd be the ones countering other ANC ministers. I wanted to ask a quick question before you continue. I'm asking a conspiracy theory question.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer it, but I need to put it in the air. Do you think Cyril Ramaphosa was sent by the business elite to go and destroy the ANC, weaken it, and bring a DA in over time?
Yeah,
Because he's arguably part of the business elite with his brother-in-law. And maybe over time, just like what would happen with the National Party and what would happen with the British before, it's now that some of us have moved into the business elite, let's start prepping for the next government so that by the time it comes in, we'll say, we're not involved, but now we're working in the background, like your Johan Rupert, your Oppenheimers, to control who's now running government. Whether it's a DA or an EFF, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, like you said, I don't have to answer it, but the individual's things is a diversion. It's a distraction. It takes away the attention from. This is why I think we need a model of understanding politics. It could have been anyone. So the issue is if you start to have the ANC as it start to get desperate, right? It is going to become more and more populist, right? As it becomes populist, that is going to cause a lot of concern for the business elite.